Good morning. My name is Alex Mortimer. I'm a director here at the Supply Chain Academy and CP Training Services Limited. I'm joined by David Fagan, Regional Manager, East of England for the EEF, the Manufacturers Organisation. And today's podcast is on the latest trends in British manufacturing and their supply chain with the EEF. David, good morning. Welcome to joining me here at the Academy, in our lovely studios. Sorry that the red light is a little bit too bright, but we'll work on that. Clearly, government is pushing export with their Exporting is Great initiative, and as we all know, UK imports are more than unfortunately than we export, and the manufacturing sector is quite an important one to the UK. Could you tell us a little bit more about what and who the EEF are, and can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the economy at the moment?
Yeah, pleasure. Morning, Alex. Morning, all. So I work for EEF, the Manufacturers Organisation. We are the representative body for manufacturers engineers. We've been in existence for well over 120 years. Our modus operandi, our purpose is all about making sure that the manufacturing sector has a strong voice, both with government and policymakers and in the media. We do that through a range of different ways, whether or not it be from the training, support, or, as I mentioned, the lobbying work that we do. As Alex has alluded to, the current trends are pretty good, but as Alex mentioned, we need to be exporting more, and the supply chain development is crucial in that. As Alex mentioned, we have our Outlook survey, so our Q1 2018 Outlook survey, which is a pretty good story. We've seen months, so I think it's the last 6 quarters have been growing. There's been continual growth, and it's all about sharing that good news story. There are various challenges on the horizon, but generally manufacturers are speaking of very good times and positive growth.
Yes, that's really interesting. I mean, looking ahead, there seems to be several factors affecting manufacturing in the UK, and these include technology, quality procedures internally, availability of finance, managing skills, managing their talent, obviously government policy and Brexit, and lastly, effective management of supply and demand. Can you talk about these in relation to the latest trends in your quarterly survey?
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a lot there on the agenda. As you mentioned, first one, technological developments. I know that manufacturers in this region, so in the east of England, are speaking about the changes that makes, the way that customers are interacting with them, the whole added value element, whether or not it be selling through approved suppliers and the actual added value of them. So manufacturers already are seeing quite a difference in the way that consumers and customers interact with them. The quality procedures, obviously that kind of possibly links in with the whole Brexit element, what policies, what standards, what regulations will be in place. The availability of finance, again, more and more manufacturers are saying that they are looking to grow, but that they are being hampered and limited by finance, whether or not that be growth on a kind of footprint basis, or whether or not it be going out and about and looking at exporting wider, what the government can be doing in terms of improving that and promoting exporting. The whole supply and demand, the management, we can see it, and I'm sure Alex will allude to the whole KFC story and about how important supply chains are, and that the unseen, often undervalued element of logistics and the supply chain is crucial for all elements of manufacturing. And then Brexit, we could be here for hours discussing Brexit, but it is going to be a big challenge for organisations, how they adapt to what regulations that will be in place, what steps can be done now particularly from a skills point of view. Here in the east of England, skills is a huge challenge, and that any changes in whether or not it be settled status for EU nationals, that will heavily impact a lot of EEF members and the manufacturing sector heavily. That's not just always at the lower end of the skills sector. A lot of people often think it is. There are a lot of middle managers, whether or not they be kind of quality service support engineers, that are highly skilled, highly trained, and they, depending on what the government comes to, what conclusion it comes to, it will affect them and a lot of engineering and manufacturers here in the East.
David, can you break it into regions, North, Midlands, East and West?
So in terms of our manufacturing outlook survey, investment is generally as a whole looking good. So we see that and business confidence very positively. So business confidence, I was recently at a regional advisory board meeting here in the East of England, and that was probably the most positive that we've seen for the past 2 to 3 years. But as I alluded to, investment is up. A lot of organisations are talking about employment figures increasing. So generally, employment figures, if not staying the same, they are looking at, again, growing with that positivity. Output has stalled a little bit, particularly over here in the East of England and the East Midlands. Yorkshire and Humber has been in the same kind of boat as that, as well as the North West. Remains pretty strong in the West Midlands, and then also down in London and the South East regions. But again, it is a very good positive message that we need to be putting across. We've seen organisations grow upon the past 6 quarters. So although it may not look quite as rosy as it is, it's 6 continuous quarters of growth that we need to be shouting from the rooftops about. I know that, again, apologies for harping back to here in the East of England, but we are seeing the actual growth of the manufacturing sector outstripping the UK economy as a whole. It is an extremely productive sector. I think there's 2.6 million people that are employed within manufacturing. It equates to 10% of the economy, but as most people recognise, that then can be broken down to a hell of a lot more due to the effects that it has on the service sector. So, manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers that I see often tell me that it really is the generation of wealth.
David, let's break it down further. Let's talk about different sectors. So let's look at what are the core issues in technology and automotive.
So again, it links heavily into the supply chain. Not to harp back to Brexit all the time, but one of the big factors that most automotive manufacturers are focusing on at the moment is the whole rules of origin, where products will be, what regulations will be in place, what steps they can be making now. As most people recognise, a car can kind of come to and across the Channel Tunnel 5 or 6 times before it's completed. What regulations will be in place, what standards they will have to adhere to. That is a big focus. And again, as much as I keep harping on skills is a huge element. We've seen the apprenticeship levy introduced back in 2016. That unfortunately has had the negative effect of, I think it was just short of 60% decrease in apprenticeships on the prior year. It is something that all manufacturers should be focusing on, and not just utilising the apprenticeship levy for what we call slightly old-fashioned skills, but apprenticeships across the organisation. We have there is a distinct lack of understanding across the UK about what the apprenticeship levy can be used for, whether or not it be slightly more middle management and higher skills. I think there are attitudinal changes that need to be made, so people should be looking to continuously develop. Engineers are good at that, don't get me wrong, but they need to be focusing on that throughout their career. Whether or not it be doing some kind of ILM level training, you've got your level 5, level 7s, and continuously developing as a leader and not just as a skilled engineer.
So, clearly the manufacturing sector has a culture of learning and development, and you've touched upon the apprenticeship levy. So what are their actual their learning needs at the moment?
Fundamentally, all engineers really are looking to develop. They develop product. They are the guys. The people out there that look to develop the whole kind of infrastructure in the UK, whether or not it be from a product or you're looking at more kind of civil engineering. But they are the types of people that are continuously researching and continuously developing. From a skills perspective, again, most organisations speak about apprenticeships and having to grow their own, which is a fantastic thing. However, there is a distinct hole in the skills agenda in that organisations may not look at succession planning. We suffer, particularly here in the East, of a ageing workforce, and succession planning isn't always on the focus until they realise that a whole cohort of employees will be retiring in 2 or 3 years. So training up those middle level managers who will in some respects be leading businesses over the next 10 to 15 years.
It's really interesting you're saying all of this. I mean, we work with lots of different organisations here at the Supply Chain Academy and CP Training. For example, some of the manufacturing companies we've worked with, like Arda Glass, Mitsubishi Electric and other such manufacturing organisations, are topics including S&OP, demand planning, forecasting, capacity planning, production scheduling, lean supply chain, lean manufacturing, and helping them to have a career pathway, to help them think about, where can we be in the next few years, how can we get them to get our staff to think differently, to be more innovative in our approach, and it's interesting that you're talking about the apprenticeship levy, because the Supply Chain Academy are leading the way in creating the first degree apprenticeship in supply chain leadership, which enables you to become an end-to-end professional in supply chain, understanding all of the topics I've mentioned, like S&OP and demand planning, but also technology in supply chain around AI, blockchain, big data analytics, and on the other side of it with procurement, contracts, managing your suppliers more effectively, because that's what you need to do to maintain growth, reduce cost, and think about these things. You can't keep doing what you've always done, because you won't survive. It's as simple as that.
It's particularly relevant in the manufacturing sector, as you said. The fourth industrial revolution will be coming disruptive technologies, so the actual skill set that manufacturers require will have to change. And they may see people and engineers who are slightly more of a IT based and dealing with data. It's all right measuring data, but what do you need from that? What is the purpose of collecting this kind of information?
Absolutely. I mean, are there any additional struggles that manufacturing companies have at the moment?
I think exporting. I think more and more will be looking at more and more support. Okay. We partner with the likes of the Department for International Trade, so those guys look at how they can improve exporting for organisations, whether or not be introducing them to new markets, new countries, new continents. But that's a big focus, and we're seeing good growth. As I alluded to right at the start, we are seeing a positive balance of change in the sector. But if more and more would be growing, and that is our message, is look almost further afield. And I'm not saying that there have been too many positives to take from Brexit just yet, but one thing that has come to the top of the agenda is focusing on international trade. What more markets can be tapped into, and as you will know, the supply chain element of that Absolutely. Is incredibly vital.
Well, the good news is that our sister company, Customs Insights Consulting Limited, who are on a previous podcast, we've been supporting organisations through everything around import, export, international trade, authorised economic operator, which enables you to, is a kite mark, which enables your company to bring in goods quicker, and supporting them in all aspects of international trade. And the company that owns us, the Uniserve Group, one of the leading logistics and trade management companies in the UK, are a proper partner of the Exporting is Great initiative from the Department of International Trade. So all of these things are all positive, and it's great to kind of align ourselves with people like yourselves, with the EEF. For manufacturing and supporting these organisations going forward, because it is a challenging time and it is difficult. One thing I do want to mention is our joint event in June at the University of Essex, where we'll be talking about all things big data, technology, strategy, innovation, and obviously manufacturing as part of that. And it's great to kind of collaborate with you on this and other events going forward. Is there, for people who want to know more about the EEF, where do they go and what do they need to do?
So it's best to look at our website, which is www.eef.org.uk. There are various different bits of information about all of the areas that EEF support the sector upon, whether or not it be from a membership perspective about how you can join the club. One thing that we have launched this year recently is our kind of EEF core offering. That's basically focusing on connecting members up. So again, there are vast amounts of manufacturers out there looking to solve challenges, so why not do it collectively?
Perfect.
Lean on other organisations that are looking to do something similar. There is that uncompetitiveness, so organisations may learn from a completely different sector, but the challenge itself is the same. So that's one place to go. As Alex has alluded to, we'll be running the event at the University of Essex on the 21st of June.
That's right.
We will have the Region Director for EEF for the Midlands and East, a lady called Charlotte Horrobin, speaking. Charlotte is particularly well thought of in the sector. She covers, as I mentioned, the West, East, Midlands and the East of England. So she's the person with a finger on the pulse and trying to gauge a good understanding of EEF and the manufacturing sector.
It's great to be working with you. I'm glad to be part of the club.
Good. Yeah, no, we are looking at connecting those organisations together. We've just launched again through the core offering a problem solving network. So the problem solving network has been set up to connect manufacturers together. Some elements are specifically for members, but there is a lot of information there for manufacturers about various relevant challenges, whether or not it be introducing new technologies, whether or not it be upgrading machinery, the challenges that organisations face on a day-to-day basis, and the whole element is that collaborative sharing of best practice. I've been absolutely thrilled and by the sharing and the openness of the sector. I've been dealing with manufacturers for just over 3 years now, and they generally are more than open to other organisations that, okay, they may not do exactly the same thing, but they may do elements, whether or not it be from a powder paint coating to increasing productivity. What challenges and what problems and what solutions have they found. It really is vital for manufacturers to connect together, and again it may be a supply chain element problem. What training have they put in place that is useful, what organisations can do better together, and that's really our focus as EEF, and as the representative body. A lot of our understanding of the sector comes off various reports that we produce, but also we look at and keep a keen eye on the problem solving network. So anything that keeps reoccurring, that then gets fed directly into our policy team, and that's how we look to shape policy and work with government in providing that network and providing that business climate for manufacturers to thrive, which it is at the moment.
That's great. Thank you very much, David. It's been great to have you on here, and we look forward to welcoming you back soon.
No, thanks, Alex, and I'll see you on June the 21st, if not before.
Perfect. Thank you.